In the year 1066, England stood on the brink of a monumental transformation. What would come to be known as the Norman Conquest was a series of events that would irrevocably alter the course of history. A battle for a throne, a clash of cultures, and the birth of a new kingdom. In the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror triumphed, decisively defeating King Harald II. With his victory, he ushered in Norman rule, reshaping England's society, law, and language for centuries to come. Edward the Confessor, King of England, had no heirs. A man of piety but lacking the strength to secure his throne, Edward's death on January 5, 1066, left a vacuum at the heart of the Anglo-Saxon kingdom. Three men would stake their claim to the throne. Harald Godwinson, the powerful English earl, was crowned king, but his claim was challenged by William of Normandy and Harald Hardrada of Norway. The ensuing struggle for the throne culminated in the Battle of Hastings, where William emerged victorious, forever altering England's destiny. Harald Godwinson, the powerful Earl of Wessex, William, Duke of Normandy, and Harald Hardrada, the King of Norway. Harald Godwinson, the brother-in-law of King Edward, was a man with ambitions. As the most powerful Anglo-Saxon noble, he had secured the loyalty of the English lords. Harold was named Edward's successor on his deathbed. Yet Harold's claim was not without controversy. In 1064, Harold had allegedly sworn an oath of loyalty to William, Duke of Normandy, promising to support William's claim to the throne. The question of whether Harold had truly given this oath voluntarily would become one of the greatest points of contention in the coming conflict. Harold wasted no time. Within days of Edward's death, he was crowned King of England at Westminster Abbey. William, Duke of Normandy, believed the throne was rightfully his, and he would not let Harold's coronation stand. William claimed that Edward the Confessor had promised him the throne of England. A descendant of Viking raiders, William saw himself as the rightful heir. William gathered a formidable force, including knights, archers, and foot soldiers from Normandy and surrounding territories. He was determined to invade England, but first he needed the blessing of the Pope. With the support of Pope Alexander II, William was granted a papal banner. Meanwhile, far to the north, another claimant to the throne was preparing to stake his claim. Harald Hardrada, a fierce Viking warrior and king of Norway, believed he had a right to the throne based on a previous agreement with the Anglo-Saxon kings. In late September, Hardrada landed with a large force in Yorkshire. His army was met by King Harald Godwinson, who had just been crowned King of England. In a dramatic clash, the two armies met at Stamford Bridge. The Battle of Stamford Bridge would be one of the most brutal in English history. Harold's army, exhausted from their march, nevertheless triumphed, defeating the Norwegians and killing Harald Hardrada. But victory came at a terrible cost. King Harold's forces were battered and weakened. Just weeks after his victory at Stamford Bridge, King Harald Godwinson received word that another army had landed. This time, William of Normandy had crossed the English Channel. William's army of knights, archers, and infantry was well organized and well equipped, and he faced Harold's weary army, which had just marched from the north. The two armies met on October 14, 1066, at the Battle of Hastings. The Battle of Hastings would prove to be the decisive confrontation. Harold's forces fought valiantly, but the Norman tactics, including the use of archers, cavalry, and feigned retreats, overwhelmed the Anglo-Saxon shield wall. After hours of fierce fighting, King Harold was struck down by an arrow to the eye, and his army was routed. The path to the throne of England was now clear for William. Following his victory, William began his conquest of England in earnest. Towns and villages were burned, castles were built, and the Anglo-Saxon nobility was either killed or displaced. The English were forced to swear fealty to their new king. On Christmas Day 1066, William was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. The Anglo-Saxon kingdom had fallen, and a new Norman monarchy had risen, but the conquest was far from over. Although William had won the battle, the war for control of England was far from finished. Resistance to Norman rule erupted across the country. In 1069, a series of revolts broke out, culminating in the infamous Herring of the North. A brutal campaign of scorched earth warfare. Entire villages were destroyed and thousands of civilians died. The rebellion was crushed, but it left deep scars on the English landscape. Despite the violence, William's control over England grew stronger. He built a series of castles across the kingdom, establishing a fortress network that would help maintain Norman dominance. The Norman Conquest was a turning point in English history. It transformed the language, culture, and society of the kingdom. The Normans brought feudalism, a new legal system, and a new aristocracy, reshaping England forever. The old Anglo-Saxon elite was replaced by a new Norman ruling class. The English language absorbed countless Norman French words, and the architecture of the time was forever changed by the construction of massive stone castles. By 1071, after nearly 5 years of warfare and resistance, England was firmly under Norman control. But the kingdom had been irrevocably transformed, a legacy that would echo for centuries to come. The Norman Conquest was not just a battle for the throne of England. It was a clash of cultures, a violent remaking of the English landscape, and the beginning of a new era. For the English, it marked the end of an ancient way of life. For the Normans, it was the start of a dynasty that would rule England for centuries. The story of 1066-1071 is the story of England itself, one of change, conflict, and transformation. Please subscribe to the channel to 2 more videos.